Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone out there, wherever you might be. Welcome to another episode of the Casual Takes podcast. I'm Greg Coleman, and not gonna lie, y'all, not gonna lie, I had somewhat of a depressing weekend, if I'm being honest. Starting off with Saturday, or during the weekend, I'm in attendance for the Phillies Dodgers game, and I was blessed to be there. It was the atmosphere was electric from the jump, but we lost in terrible fashion. And I was in my mind, I was like, the Eagles got me. Like at least we got the Eagles. I was wrong. Going into Sunday, I was willing to accept the consolation or a little bit of a sacrifice that the Eagles were going to win. And all they did was make me feel worse. Honestly speaking, this loss felt even worse than how the Phillies lost. And today is Tuesday now at the time that I'm recording this. And the Phillies are now down 2-0. They're probably cooked, not gonna lie. Probably gonna get eliminated come tomorrow, Wednesday. But, I'm gonna still be supportive. I'm gonna still back my team regardless of all that. I'm also in a 2 game losing streak in my fantasy league as well. And so, who has it better than me, y'all? Who has it better than me? It's probably been the worst 3 day stretch for me in a good minute, being really honest. But I think that just comes with being an avid fan, being a diehard fan. Going to experience all of these emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's just how it is being a Philly fan in general. And I've I've known that since I chose to be a Philly fan, really. It's been almost a year since the Eagles last lost a game, dating back to that Commanders loss where Jalen got concussed, and then we kind of lost in terrible fashion in that game. With Jalen starting and finishing the game, I might add, it's been over a year since the last time the Eagles lost. And so really the truth is that it was bound to happen at some point. I think it just goes to show how spoiled we are as Eagles fans. But that's not to say that we still demand excellence from this team regardless. Yes, we did come off a Super Bowl, but we should show every single week why we won that Super Bowl. And so going into the game against the Broncos, I knew both defenses were going to come to play. I mean, I said that from my last episode or from the episode before, where I said that the Broncos had a good defense. I've been saying that the Eagles' defense is elite. And so that's exactly what happened this past Sunday. Both defenses came to play. Both defenses were committed to getting stop after stop after stop. And really, I would say that this was kind of a low scoring contest if you look at the box score, but I know other people may have differing opinions. Going into the half, the score was only 10-3. And in the first half, my takeaway was that the offense looked somewhat solid, I would say. Going against a good defense, we were figuring out how to somewhat pick them apart. And it was a lot to take away from that first half that we could use to our advantage in the second half. Based on the play calling in the first half, we were somewhat mixing it up from the cookie cutter offense that we've been running these past 4 weeks. I thought there was a little bit of improvement in that regard. I thought Jalen looked really good in the passing game. My only point of emphasis regarding the first half and how we were doing on offense is that Saquon only had 5 carries in the first half. And when you look at that number, it does point out. And so I just felt like we needed to play more of a complementary brand of football. That's our winning formula. And that's always going to be our winning formula, really, especially with the talent that we have on offense. And so, really, going into the second half, I felt like it was going to be a make or break in regards to who wanted it more. I mean, that's what you kind of get out of the defensive game. And that was, like I said, that was my biggest takeaway. The Eagles scored in the third quarter, making it a 17-3 game and being somewhat comfortable. I would say not entirely comfortable, as when you're in this position, you want to step on their throat in a general sense. Everything then falls apart in the fourth quarter. Penalties, poor play calling, and the biggest characteristic of shooting ourselves in the foot, really, from all of this, is what allowed the Broncos to not only score twice, but for them to score 17 unanswered, excuse me, 18 unanswered points and inevitably winning the game. The truth is that we should have won the game. I feel like for a majority of the game, we were the better team. We showed that we were the better team. But I've been saying time and time again, if we commit to playing this continuous brand of sloppy football and trying to basically get by each week with a win, we're going to end up exposing ourselves. And so, honestly speaking, after such a bad loss, I'm embarrassed. Straight up, I'm embarrassed. I've been spicing this team up for the past couple of weeks when they haven't been playing to their standard of what we know them as. They clearly are not on the same page, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, or even the special teams too, for some of it also. There's just been a plethora of just stupid mistakes that last year's team would have cut out or easily dust off. And so the question raised is really, does this Eagles team have what it takes to win it all this year or even go back to the Super Bowl? And my answer to that is yes. The Eagles are 4-1. The Bills also lost. So no one in the NFL is undefeated anymore. And we kind of look at last week, we etch a sketch it, and we reset. We played a 5 game stretch against some solid opponents, give or take. Give or take. Cowboys looked pretty good against us. They played it tight to the end of the game. The Rams fought to the very end, and they looked really good as well. The Chiefs were, I mean, they were just in the Super Bowl too, and so I didn't expect us to blow them out, even though they only have one win up to this point this year. And the Buccaneers are surprisingly a good team in the NFC this year. And so, and we've never had any luck against the Buccaneers either. And so, that's not to say that, you know, we were going against teams better than us. We had tough matchups in front of our faces, and somehow we find ourselves at 4-1. However, however, in order to be elite in this league, I need to call out what's wrong with this team. So, First things first, Kevin Patullo, you are sorry as an offensive coordinator. There's no vision, no creativity, no discipline whatsoever on the offensive side of the ball up to this point. I mean, you are literally the Domino's meme that I was referencing a couple episodes ago. I just want to shoot some numbers to y'all for my reasoning as to why I feel this way. Through 5 weeks, Philadelphia's offense ranks 30th in the NFL in yards per game, 29th in yards per rush, and 25th in drop back success rate. We also lead the league in 3-and-out rate this year, 47.2%. No team has had this bad of a percentage in 20 years. Not to mention in the second half, as I got to talk about that too. The Eagles had 5 drives apart from our last minute desperation drive. First drive, 4 plays, 74 yards, and a touchdown. And so you look at this like, okay. That was a good drive. It's not how we looked the rest of the game. Next drive, 5 plays, 23 yards, and a punt. Next drive after that, 3 plays, negative 16 yards, a punt. Next drive, 3 plays, negative 6 yards, a punt. Next drive, 3 plays, 2 yards, and a punt. In each of our 5 games this year, we've been outgained on the offensive side of the ball. And by a wide margin too, as it hasn't really been close. When I look at how we played against the Broncos this week, we improved in the passing game. I thought Jalen had a really good game, no doubt. But as the play caller, you're forgetting about somebody in that is highly crucial to how successful this Eagles offense can be. And that's the man that just had a 2,000-yard season last year. I mentioned in the first half that Saquon only had 5 carries. Guess how many he finished the game with, y'all? Just guess. He finished the game with 6 carries, meaning in the second half, he only rushed 1 time. Most notably, Saquon admitted after the game that the passing touchdown in the third quarter was a play call designed by Jalen Hurts. I mean, even to my point as well, what is the point of passing the ball 38 times if we aren't moving the ball downfield? I just mentioned to y'all how lackluster our drives in the second half were, apart from the one that we scored. And in that sense, that was Jalen's play call. So who can I really give credit to in that regard? The Eagles are at their best when they play their brand of complementary football. When defenses respect the run, it opens up the field to move the ball in the passing game. When defenses expect us to pass, we have more freedom to run the ball. At this point in the season, the offense is yet to play a full game of on-brand football as we know it. 20 yards in the fourth quarter. False starts, illegal shifts, etc., etc., etc. And these are all products of what undisciplined coaching looks like. And while we're on the topic of that, I blame Nick Sirianni as well. I mean, this was your in house hire, but you should also have the answers to some of the problems that are going on in this year, too. And it would be in poor faith at this point in the season to fire Kevin Patullo. I'm not a big supporter of him, and I probably won't be for the rest of this season, honestly speaking. But since you are offensive coordinator, since you are the one calling the plays, you have to lock in. I've been saying all season long that there is no excuse. There is no excuse to look this bad on the offensive side of the ball with all of the talent that we have on offense. So, Kevin Patullo, please, please figure it out. Whatever you have to do, just please figure it out. I do think that we'll be fine, but that's also not to say that I'm content with being just fine. We have to step up. We have to, like I said, play our brand of football that we're accustomed to. What also went bad in the game against the Broncos was the officiating. The Eagles had the Eagles had 9 penalties in the game against the Broncos. A Zach Bond unnecessary roughness call, which gave the Broncos more plays to chew clock. A Saquon illegal shift, which potentially took away a go ahead touchdown or being able to even kick a field goal, but it set us back. Quinyon Mitchell being called for a holding in the end zone early in the fourth quarter when really he didn't have to. He did not have to. It led to Denver scoring on that next play. A holding penalty also in the fourth quarter, which was also one of the reasons why we had to punt. So I'm not one to excuse officiating by any means. I feel like there were questionable calls that game. Don't get me wrong. But I'm never going to blame the refs for why we lost the game. Instead, I'm going to call it for exactly how I see it. And like I said, these penalties were inexcusable to commit. It shows a lack of discipline. And it ultimately is the reason why I said we shot ourselves in the foot. I don't expect these same type of bonehead penalties to continue over the course of the season, but this goes back to my coaching argument. If the coaches are who we say they are, they'll clean it up in the film, no doubt. They'll be able to hold guys, not only hold the team accountable, but they're able to hold themselves accountable as well. But moving on from that, moving on from that, I want to talk about a little bit of some of the good that happened in this game. Devontae Smith had his best game of the season up to this point. 114 yards, 8 receptions. He made some big plays, which kept us in the game, but also set us up to score as well. Outside of our current offensive struggles right now, which are still evident and it's still reality of what it is right now, he's starting to play up to speed. And so I'm glad that he got it going against the Broncos. Obviously, that wasn't enough, though. Although we did end up blowing the game as well going into the fourth quarter, I liked what I saw from the defense for the majority of the game. In the first half, the defense was pretty much a stonewall. I liked what I saw from Jahad Campbell as well. He's continuing to excel in the linebacker pairing with Zach Bond. Zadarius Smith also proving to be yet another Howie gem. And I sound like a broken record when I say that, but Howie Roseman, he just doesn't miss. He does not miss. But most importantly, the defense kept us in this game for a good portion of it, really. And as they have been doing for the past 4 weeks, once again against the Broncos, the defense masked how bad the offense looked up until the collapse, really. And that's where you can kind of get critical of how the defense was playing in the fourth quarter. And as I've been saying, as I've been saying, the defense, they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot like they have been this past week. But it's also a bit easier when you're spending more time on the field than you should. This goes back to how bad the offense is playing. You're keeping your defense on the field more, and really you're giving them more opportunities to make mistakes. And I feel like that's the root of the problem. But on the good side of things, on another good side of things, I might add, we have a three game stretch before we go into the bye in week 9. We have the Giants on the road, the Vikings on the road, and then the Giants at home once again before we go into week 9. And so we could potentially win these next 3 games to go into week 9 with a 7-1 record for the bye week. But as I just talked about our stretch of these next 3 games, that brings me right into this week's preview. Week 6, we have the Giants and the Eagles going against each other. And this is for my LBs. This is for my LBs. And so I want y'all to listen closely to this. I feel extremely sorry for y'all this week. Not only are the Giants coming off of a loss against the worst team in the league, but this has the potential to be the Birds get right kind of game against a clear lesser opponent on a short week as well. So they still have a lot of adrenaline running and they're definitely pissed off for sure. For sure. I feel really bad for y'all this week, LBs. Not gonna lie. But that's also to say that y'all chose to be Giants fans. And so I don't know if I could feel that bad for y'all. But, I'm just talking about stuff right now. I'm just talking about stuff right now. And so the Eagles open up this week as 7.5 favorites, right now at least. And just for obvious reasons, I thought going into the season, I thought that the Giants were going to not only shock the world, but shock the division a little bit. They aren't as good as I thought they were. They are probably going to finish last in the division, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately as that was a prediction that went wrong for me. But that's what happens when you make casual takes, I guess. And up to this point this year, the Giants are averaging the most penalty yards in the NFL. And I thought the Eagles were undisciplined this past week against the Broncos. Giants seem to take the cake with that over the course of the season as a whole. They also rank 29th in turnover differential. And After impressing in his debut against the Chargers, I thought that Jackson Dart was he was a talented quarterback. He looked like he was going to be a future for this franchise. And that could still ring true. Don't get me wrong. But it seems to me that with the film, looking at the film, that he's come down to earth a little bit. And that's expected. That is expected. But that brings to my point that he's not, I guess, as good of a quarterback as people thought he was. That's just the truth. He still has a lot of time to develop. He still has a lot of time to get right. But right now, he's a rookie and he's going to make rookie mistakes. On the other side of rookies, I want to talk about Cam Scatterboo. At the moment this season, with how bad the Giants' season could potentially go, he's looking like he's can bud into being the Giants' bright spot this season. 100 all-purpose yards last week, and every week he seems to get better as well. And so, although I'm an Eagles fan, I never will have respect for the Giants. He has my respect just a little bit. He's making somewhat of a fan out of me. I love his run style. He plays with a lot of attitude and aggression, and that's what you need out of a running back to be able to set the tone for, especially for a team that doesn't really have much to be excited for. So, my casual take for this week against the Giants. It's time to have that breakout game that I've been predicting for the past couple of weeks. We're going against a bottom five run defense in the league, worst red zone offense in the league, and really one of the worst teams in the NFC. And although Saquon's status is currently up in the air, I expect him to play Thursday. That being said, it could be easy pickings for our rushing attack. It can also be easy pickings for our defense going up against an inexperienced quarterback in Jackson Dart. As I said, he has a talent and he's going to show flashes here and there, but he does not have the experience. He is a rookie. And so we need to be a little bit realistic in that regard. To my point as well, in regards to the Giants, their defensive line has been their strong suit, as I've known for a couple of years up to this point. But they have started off a little bit slow this year. And that can kind of play in part with the team performance as well. And so I don't want to discount that or downplay that. By all means, they could have their breakout game this Thursday for all we know. And so really it boils down for the Eagles to figuring out a formula to win this game. And that formula to winning this game is fixing the mistakes. Take a look at the film from these past 5 weeks and look at what went wrong on the offensive side. See what went wrong on the defensive side of the ball. Figure out how we can capitalize from these mistakes and show not only to ourselves but to the world really that we are an elite team. Come out firing this week against the Giants. On the road, it's always important to set the tone early. But most importantly, play like you're pissed off. You haven't played a full 4 quarters yet this season. Everybody is wondering if this team is going to go back to the Super Bowl, but everybody is also questioning the integrity of this offense. And so, play your brand of football this week. Find a balance between the pass and the run. As I said, when you figure out a balance between the past, they'll honor that. And you can open up space to have big run plays. But on the other hand of that, like I said, if you are running the ball at a respectable rate, they respect the run and you can open up the space for more pass plays or more pass plays that are explosive, I should say. And so don't put the defense on the field than more than they should be, really. I feel like I've been seeing that for the past couple of weeks. And so I would like that to be fixed this week against the Giants. Take what this bad defense gives you in this game. And although I do expect us to win this week, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. Last year, Saquon erupted against his former team. And I expect him to do the same this week. This is going to be Saquon's breakout game. I'm predicting it right now. And like I said, I don't predict, I spoil. And so I'm spoiling this script for y'all already. If we follow this formula that I've been talking about, we'll go into the long week with a win to take away from it. And so here's to a good win against a team that I don't really like, but here's to also figuring out and putting me out of this negative rut that I've been in, mentally speaking. But next time y'all see me, it'll be it'll probably be a reaction from the NLDS if we get eliminated tomorrow. But I'm not going to be negative about that. I'm not going to be negative about that. We're going to win Wednesday and we're going to win Thursday against the Giants. And so it'll be all reactions to everything week 6. Going around the league now, as I can't forget about that. Although the Eagles' loss was bad, the Cardinals, I feel like their loss was worse. The Titans, who trailed 21-6 in the fourth, their win probability in the fourth was as low as 1.8%. Somehow the Titans win this game. They figured out a way to win. And the reason why they found a way to win was partly because the Cardinals found a way to lose. Play calling, poor decision making. I mean, that fumble at the end zone, inexcusable. And for some reason, people are still pulling this Deshaun Jackson move for whatever reason. But shout out to the Titans for picking up their first win this year. On to teams that haven't won yet this year. The New York Jets. They're now 0-5 this year. And honestly speaking, y'all might as well look on to next season at this point. Play for that number 1 draft pick. It's just not going to be a pretty year for Jets fans, honestly speaking. But also in the AFC East, the Bills finally lost a game, similar to the Eagles did. I feel better knowing that the Bills lost as well. As I said, it's going to be a reset, not only for the Eagles, but it is going to be a reset for the Bills too. And so I'm not going to dog the Bills this week. However, I am going to give credit to the Patriots and Drake May. He put New England in a position to win that game. I know you might look at the numbers, no passing touchdowns, but he moved the ball and was making the right plays, making the right throws, and like I said, was putting him in position to win that game. And so everybody said that he was going to be the franchise quarterback for the Patriots, and he just had a signature moment for them. And so shout out to Drake May. Also in the AFC East, Mike McDaniel. He might be out of a job soon, not gonna lie. I said that there was a lot wrong with everything going on in the Dolphins, from the coaching to the players, just culture as a whole. But if Mike McDaniel somehow does get happen to get fired, and I do expect that, Mike McDaniel, just know, home Philly is where home is at. And so I just want to remind that for you whenever that offensive coordinator job opens up. I hope you're listening. Going into the AFC North now, the Bengals trade for Joe Flacco at the time that I'm recording this. I don't think he'll be a difference maker for the Bengals, but I think it'll be fun watching him under center up until Joe Burrow returns, whenever he should return. And I know that Lamar Jackson is injured, or he was injured this past week, but it's time to come to a realization that the Ravens are cooked. And speaking of cooked, the Raiders are absolutely deep fried. Just lost terrible this past week. And for how long I've known the Raiders to be, they really had no sense of direction in their franchise. And they're probably going to be a bottom five team in the NFL as well. And lastly, I was somewhat wrong about the Bucks. I Going back to talking about them in my preview from the previous episodes, I wasn't taking them serious as a contender in the NFC. But they looked really good against Seattle, and they went toe to toe with the Seattle Seahawks and found a way to win that game, much less than 3 points, but they've still found a way to win. And they probably will be contenders in the NFC. I don't think they're better than the Eagles, but at the moment, they are front runners to win the NFC South. That's all I have for today. Make sure to follow, like, and share on all platforms. And I'll see y'all next time. Go Birds.